Good morning from Tokyo, Japan, and thank you very much for explaining my biography. And I'm really glad that, can I call you Ken? Because it's a very familiar name in Japanese. It's actually the Japanese name, Ken. So I'm really delightful and very glad that the Hudson Institute invite me to this conference. And it is very great honor for me to join Hudson Institute because Ken already told about my story. When I was 20s, I was invited as a international visitors program from the United States government, Department of State program. And I requested to visit Hudson Institute because when I was that age, I was always watching Hidaka's report in Japan. And I was really interested in his report. And I searched his bio, and he is the team of the Hudson Institute. So I request DOS to introduce me to the Hudson Institute headquarters. And I thought Hudson Institute is in Washington, D.C., but actually it doesn't. The head office is in Indianapolis. So I went there and I really enjoyed staying in Hudson Institute. And I met with President London at that time. I was really surprised that London is in Indianapolis. So anyway, and anyway, so now I'm getting, getting older. I was born in 1970, so this year I will go into 51, and now I'm in politics in Japan, and I'm sitting here in the Ministry of Defense. And so today it's a very great day that I have to thank to the Hudson Institute, and I have to share our knowledge and also a small experience of myself. And I'm really glad and very, very honorable to sitting here with Hudson Institute's event. So thank you very much again. ありがとうございます。So first, I'd like to talk about what is happening around Japan. And also, I can say that the what's happening and the situation has been changed is not concern or the problem or issue that the Japan only have. The issue that I'm going to tell you is also I think it's a very big matter of the not just the United States of America, but also the Europe or allies in the world. So first, I'd like to show you this map. So this map shows you the range of JL2 missiles and also JL3 missiles. It's a missile range, easy to understand. So this is Japan, my country. This is the North America, Canada, and the United States, Washington, D.C. And so you can see the red submarine here. This is what we call South China Sea. So the Chinese naval activities is actually they are getting more power, and also they are investing the lots of budget focusing on especially to the maritime businesses, and that means submarines. And of course, it's a nuclear submarines. And they used to have the JL2 missiles, which is a range about 8,000 kilometers. And so if the Chinese submarine launched missile from JL2 for this direction, which means your house direction, maybe Honolulu, it's in the range. And sometime Alaska, sometime West Coast. it can reach to your place. It's a possibility. But actually, 2020, last year, which we tried to having a Olympic and Paralympics in Tokyo, but unfortunately the virus came out from the Wuhan, China, and expanded and took lots of lives from the world, all over the world. And I send condolences to the who lost their lives by this tragedy and disaster of the pandemic. So anyway, 2020, the Chinese PLA planned it to create the new missiles, updating missiles called JL-3 missiles. So what about the JL-3 missiles? JL-2 range, it's about the Honolulu, which I told you already. But JL-3, it's getting more range they can get. So even the East Coast, the White House in Washington, D.C., it's already in the aiming of the target range of the JL-3 missiles. So if the Chinese submarine dive into the water of the South China Sea area, and if they use these missiles towards the United States, means they are already possible to aim the East Coast and the White House. So I think those kind of situation is a fact why the United States, the former president Donald Trump is so strongly feel like upset, and also he have to tough negotiation between the Chinese Xi Jinping. I think it looks like only a tech issue, you know, the 5G issue, but also 5G means future techniques like on the internet or the AI. If you talk about AI with China, there's two meanings of the AI. One is an artificial island in the South China Sea. The other AI is the artificial intelligence, which we need a moral when we create those technology. So I think the former administration is also consider about the what the China's next movement or step step towards the world. And now the President Joe Biden administration actually he against with Donald Trump strongly during the campaign or even after the campaign. But honestly speaking, I think the foreign policy of the United States government is getting more stronger compared to Donald Trump foreign policy. And actually, Joe Biden's administration updating the base of the Donald Trump foreign policy, especially towards China, and also the Asia region. And also the when our former administration, Shinzo Abe, former prime minister, present to the all over the world leaders about the FOIP, which is a free, open, Indo-Pacific concept. And Donald Trump, the former president, strongly follow and catch up about the Shinzo Abe's policy, which is FOIP. And even the present administration, Joe Biden's administration, also following this concept. So as a Japanese politician, I'd like to say thank you very much, the United States, and US and Japan's strong strengthening to the foreign policy issues, especially against this kind of threat and concern for the both country and also the entire world have to be think together, and we have to solve those issues together. and not just the Japan or US, but if you look at the north side, you can see not the United States, Canada, but also the EU countries, all the European countries, including the aim and the range of the new missile from the Chinese PLA threat. So, and also there is another movement on the issue of the Earth, which means we can, if you look the Chinese activities around Japanese soil or the access water or the air defense when you're focusing on, you can see the China and Russia collaborating together when they're doing some military exercise around our neighbors. And actually, right now, the Russians military activity in the northern territory of Japan, actually they are doing using the troops, more than 10,000 troops in the northern territory of Japan. And this kind of activity or the military exercise is really pressure to the Japanese citizens, so that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Japan yesterday we claimed to the Russian ambassador and also the Russian embassy, and so and also the bombers flew over our sky nearby, and they flew over and across our territorial sky. They crossed the border of our sky. So last year. And so those kind of activities between the Russians and also the Chinese military exercises, they are increasing the situation and the numbers. So that is our concern and our surrounding the situation right now. And then those Russia, the former Soviet Union threat, or the what we call the Cold War during the 20th century, in this 21st century, still continuously doing the same kind of how do you call it, the situation or the balance is still continuously in this 21st century also. And also we have another concern. If you look up on the sky, which means space, outer space, and you can see next slide. This slide shows you the satellite activities from the China, and so the Chinese space agency launched lots of satellites, more than the United States in the future, and so the space field, the warfare is also escalating, I guess. And what the concern is, the Chinese satellite is not, I think it's not a very friendly satellite, which provide the TV, satellite TV waves or something like that. The United States satellite and our satellite is very peaceful. Our satellite never kills another satellite, but the Chinese satellite actually kills another satellite. What we call the killer satellite exists in the outer space. So, and also the Chinese space agency and military forces, they launched their own satellite. And then the next, they launched another satellite, and another satellite shoot down the former satellite, which they launched. And when it explodes all over the outer space, lots of space debris, how to say, spread out to the space field. So those Chinese satellite, the space debris, very quick, very speedy to there is a possibility to hit another healthy satellite from, for example, from NASA or from JAXA or whoever, the country who launched the satellite in the space, there is a possibility to get injured. So we, the country of the democratic country especially, and also the country who is really interested in, and also we get the profit from the space, have to think how to hedge the risk of the space debris made by China. So actually, if we have to protect from the missile from somewhere, we cannot provide the solutions without GPS. Even the automotive cars, you have a car navigation system inside of your the car. So if satellite damaged, all the waves provided from the outer space is going to stop, and this this will affect to the very big damage to the economy, to the all over the world. So I would like to say that the Chinese space agency or the PLA activity in the outer space have to be safe activity, and please behave what you are doing in outer space is concerning our all the space agency from the world. And now the Japanese Ministry of Defense collaborating with Japanese startups from the universities, from the private sectors, that we have to collaborate, solve those kind of issue from the outer space. So which means we are collecting some seeds from the startups. They are now selling the system of the how to collect those space debris, not from just the Chinese activities, but also the space debris to collect and clean, make it clean in outer space, which means healthy space. So those kind of sectors we have to create, and we have to pioneering those kind of new tech, which is going to become a basic of the outer space activities. And also finally, this is a very famous GPS photo. So this is the South China Sea. You can see Philippines and ASEAN countries around. This is the South China Sea, but there is lots of artificial islands made by China during the Obama administration. And for example, this is one of the biggest reef in 2014 in the South China Sea. But 2015, 1 year later, the Chinese destroy all the reef, all the environment, natural environment. They ignore the natural environment and turn into those kind of man-made islands. And this 2020, now they already made almost 4 kilometers runway for the military base. So those kind of destroying and ignore the natural resource of the earth, and creating the new base for the military base inside of the South China Sea. It's not understandable for all the Asian free and democratic country. This is a big threat, not just for us in Asian people, but also the concern of even the American citizens or the European countries. So that's why all the European countries and also of course, the United States, the armed forces, now coming forward and together exercising in the Asia. So those kind of exercise, I think we can show the deterrence towards the country who is not, who is doing what I told you, those kind of very dangerous and activities. And so if you look them up, this is the United States, and this is my country, Japan, Pacific Ocean. And now, one more thing, we have a Honolulu here. You know, the 70 years ago, we attacked Pearl Harbor, but now US and Japan is a very good allies, like, you know, it's one of the best allies in all over the world. And we can together preparing for the defense for the lots of, if something enemy's activities or even evils coming attack our nation or our citizens, we have to protect together. But if you look the news from Zvezda, which is a Russian report, the news from the Russian military, they are actually exercising now just right in front of the Honolulu. And there are battleships, nuclear submarines, and big airplanes, and they are really exercising just right in front of the western part of Honolulu. And so I don't want to remind the 70 years ago, but we have to be careful the exercising of the Russians. They are taking the place, the western side of the Honolulu, the Hawaii. And in Hawaii, there is a 7th Fleet, and also in the PACOM, the headquarters in Hawaii. And we now, yesterday, the White House, the United States government also made a comment about Hong Kong. The daily, Apple Daily is closed. And I'm so sorry for them that they cannot say no more free word, no more expression. The Hong Kong people cannot loudly speak out. And if somebody who live in Hong Kong claimed to the Beijing or Xi Jinping, easily to arrest or kidnapped by somebody, I don't know, but it's already reported in the news even. So, you know, the Hong Kong is, you know, the China, after the 1997, the Hong Kong back in to China. But unfortunately, the Chinese government said they are going to do one state, two systems. But actually, they broke the promise. And so I really worried about Hong Kong or Uyghurs. You know, the human rights is one of the biggest issue, but there is no freedom if I look at the news from all over the world. So I really want that the United States and who agree about the human security or humanitarian aid or human rights issue have to be think together and act together, and we have to let's hear the voices from the suffering, from those kind of pressure from some kind of the country or government, what we call the autocrats or the autocratic governments. So I'm personally thinking about and focus those issues. And so one more last thing I I'm watching carefully is a Taiwan issue. So the Wall Street Journal reported my opinion as their opinions about I told about how to say red line of the 21st century of the Asia is Taiwan Strait. So we have to protect the Taiwan as a democratic country. In 1970s, the year we were born, at that time, the United States policy and also the all over the world think and tried the China is going to become one. So it says one China policy, as you know. It's a history, one of the page of the big history book. But the decision of at that time and now, since 1970s, and now it's 50 years later, what happening and the results of the 50 years ago decision making, or the people or the person in power at that time, the decision makers, was it right, or it's good? I don't know. The future kids generation, if they become adult, they are going to, I think, judge the historical moment about from the political point of view. So what I'd like to say is, democratic country have to protect the democratic country and allies. And if you look at the cyberspace, cyber intelligence, or the cyber security, I was attend White House cyber security conference. I was attend European security conference on cybers. And when I attend both meetings, I felt there is a new type of Cold War already exists in the cyber field. China, Russia, they want to control everything on cybers, even the citizens living in their countries. And the United States or Japan or the allies of the democratic countries using the internet field as a freedom field, and also the internet is the trigger and also the spring to increasing the economy or each own country GDPs. So I think those kind of how to say the teams difference between the autocratic governments country team or friendship group, and also the US, Japan, or the European Union, the freedom and democratic groups is already there is some kind of the veil. I mean some kind of the wall that you cannot see, but you can feel it. That there is a really divided societies is in cyber field. So it takes a little bit long to talk about my few of my personal opinion, and sharing with a very great think tank, #1 think tank in the world called Harrison Institute. And I really respect you and respect the think tank. And also the United States is our allies, and our ancestors fought against each other. But because of that, we lost the lives. We had lots of tears from our ancestors and the friends and the families. But because of that, now the 21st century, Japan and the United States is the most strong allies and trust friends any other cannot compete or compare. So again, thank you very much for this opportunity. And I'm sorry to the audience hearing my pity English, but I personally doing my best effort because I love Hudson Institute. So thank you very much again, and arigato.
Well, thank you so much, State Minister Nakayama, for those incredible remarks. Very rich, a lot to dig into. You began by talking about the threat, not simply being a threat that Japan faces, not simply that the United States faces, but that we face together with our European allies. You started by talking about the threat from the newly developed Chinese submarine-launched nuclear missiles, the JL-3s, and you walked us through a very rich discussion, cross-domain discussion, ranging from the threat in outer space to the challenge in the artificial islands in the South China Sea, to the human rights threat posed in Hong Kong and in Xinjiang, and also the threat to the people of Taiwan, and the threat posed in the cyber domain. And it was a very rich presentation, lots of questions to ask you. Thank you so much for those very thought-provoking remarks, and also for the kind remarks about Hudson Institute. Let me begin by picking up on the Taiwan theme that you raised towards the end. You and Defense Minister Kishi are among Taiwan's best friends in the Japanese Diet, but as warm as the relationship is between the Japanese and Taiwanese people, and as crucial as the defense of Taiwan is to the defense of Japan, the official relationship has very significant legal limitations. You hinted in your remarks about the fact that our children will look back at the decisions made in the 1970s about the one China policy and ask if it was wise or not. I'm wondering how you see do you see an evolution in Japanese-Taiwan relations occurring? How long will it take? How long over time will it take? And how do the Japanese people sense the security threat of Taiwan is linked to their own security threat? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Japan and Taiwan, it's a really close border. I mean, you told Kishi Nobuo, who is the defense minister of us, my boss, Kishi-san, and I am kind of a friend of Taiwan, but we are not a friend of Taiwan. We are brother. We are family of Taiwan, more closer. So if something happens in Taiwan, it's directly related to the Okinawa prefecture. And in Okinawa prefecture, there is existence of the United States, the armed forces. We have a Kadena Air Base. We have the US Marine Corps base, and another facilities, not just the Japanese self-defense forces and Japanese citizens living in Okinawa, but also the United States military bases and facilities, and also the families of the US, the people who are serving in the Okinawa for the entire whole world. So we have to really focusing on the Taiwan issue, which now they have threatening by the Chinese PLA. And the last week, 28 fighter jets flew over from the Chinese continent towards Taiwan. And they actually sometimes cross borders of the Chinese territorial air and land and soil. So, and also if it's too small in this map, but if here is a Taiwan, and this is the Pacific Ocean, this is the western side, which is the Chinese content. The Chinese fighter jet, PLA fighter jet, coming from the continent of the China, and and also the battleship used to be exercising around this China-Taiwan Strait. But now they move the Pacific Ocean side even, and they're exercising in the eastern part of the Taiwan. So this means they are trying to surround all the Taiwan islands, which is a very, if I'm a Taiwanese who living in Taiwan, maybe feel the lots of threat and the stress from the exercise, even the exercising from the Chinese PLA activities. And, but also on the other hand, in 1970s, one China policy already made by the senior members of the politics in both countries, actually, and including the Chinese Beijing government. So how to solve this issue? The one thing that we can do is we have to show the deterrence towards China, and not just China, but also the Russians, because they, as I told you, that they are doing their exercises together. So I think from the Taiwan point of view, this is my personal opinions, but I think the Taiwanese are really concerned, and also the focusing on the two big countries collaborating, and gave the lots of threat towards Taiwan. So what we can do is show the deterrence, and also so something attack or the happening towards Taiwan, it's straight to relate to the not just Japan, but also the U.S.-Japan alliance even. So please think about the geopolitically, how it is really close, Taiwan Island and Okinawa Island. It's kind of like a nose and eyes, this close. So please be careful. And I really want the United States have to be more stronger and stronger. And you know, in early days, maybe 15 years ago, Chinese PLA, if something happens between the United States, the armed forces, I think the U.S. forces can easily, you know, cover their powers. But right now, Chinese PLA has the big, how to say, aircraft carrier, and that they are creating their own new battleships. They have, of course, the nuclear capabilities, and a very strong leadership by Mr. Xi Jinping. So, and they have aggressive, how to say, the thought and the will. So the perceived power of their country is getting stronger. So wake up. We have to wake up, and we have to prepare the strange activity around the Taiwan.
Well, yeah, thank you. Let me ask you, as you talked in your remarks several times about the need to deter China, and I think there's a sense now in Japan that national security needs to move from defense to deterrence, that this is increasingly important for Japan. And their public discussion of Japan's future defense posture, though, tends to focus more on inputs than on outputs and outcomes. And so there's a lot of focus on the 1% of GDP number. That's certainly important. But what kinds of concrete capabilities are you and Minister Kishi putting in place? What does Japan need to field and deploy to support its new, tougher line on foreign policy as you move from defense to deterrence?
Yes, as I told you, the classic type of warfare, we only have to protect you know, the land, air, and sea. Only three domains. I mean the warfare. But right now we have to think adding another warfare and the war fields called space and cyber and also electric, in Japanese called denshisen, electric warfare. So we have lots of warfare and the domains, more than 6, and plus fake news and internet, cyber intelligence and counterintelligence, and also not just the big country, but on the other hand, there is some organization called Hamas, Hezbollah, even the Japan Red Army, or lots of, classic type of the terrorist, or the new type of the terrorism is existing in this world right now. So we have to prepare when we think, and we have to prepare for the all of those kind of activities. We have to try to increase the budget for the defense, and also the intelligence and the interior issue even. And right now, the ruling party called Liberal Democratic Party, they requested us to the Japanese government, please try to increase the budget of defense they are requesting. Actually, our budget is the 50% of our budget for the defense is the salary of the self-defense force staffs. So only 50% of the whole budget of defense is we can buy some missile, we can buy some tanks, we have to R&D the next techniques or spin-off and collaborate with private sectors or academia. So our budget are really limited. So that point of view, we have to creating together and try to make it cost more lower, and also the sharing the our capabilities, and how to say, working out the part how to protect. So, and also we are also trying to think about the standoff capability, about the missiles, and also the defensive whole sky from the enemy's threat, from the via sky. And also we have to think about the GPS technology for the future together, like the satellite constellation in the entire the Earth. Which is we have to protect from the HGV, the high speed, the new missiles, cruising type of missiles, and also it's like a pitching of the Japanese pitcher in the U.S. Baseball field. Sometimes they throw a very good ball, but it's going to be curved suddenly. So those kind of a new type of missile, which we cannot so easily protect or detect. So we have to creating the enemy creating the new tech. So we have to creating new defense tech, but cost efficiency is also needed. And we have to try to make them understand from the voters, from the taxpayers, the way of thinking and their concept and the opinions. It's very, very important. So we, the politicians and the government, have to approach to the people of own citizens to make them understand what's happening in the world, and we have to hedge the risk of the war. I really surprised also on the trip to by the DOS invited as an international visitor program. I visited Honolulu, the final destination. And I thought that was lucky, but only the business. So I went the United States Army facility in Honolulu, Waikiki. There is Asia Pacific Security Studies, the think tank runs by US Army. And they actually inviting 41 countries at that time, including Chile, which countries surround the Pacific Ocean. And the United States government invite all the future golden eggs from the 41 countries, diplomats, military officials, and all the young people get together in Honolulu. And the whole week and the weekends spend time together in 3 months in Honolulu. So I learned the United States government at that time, Indian officials and also the Pakistan officials, both invited in Honolulu at that time. And first time Pakistan, India, it's not so good relations between the two. And the one Indian official dropped the pen. The Pakistan never took it, I mean, for him. But 3 months, you know, we have a weekend, they can do canoeing, surfing, barbecues, get together, talk together, the showing our own, the way of thinking together, and sometimes maybe arguing and fight with the conversation. But you remember when the India and also the Pakistan, the conflict happening in over there, the both eggs becoming generals in the India and Pakistan at that time. So they called each other, making hotlines together and prevent the war. So who make this peace? The United States and also the US Army, the think tank called Asia Pacific Security Studies. So I asked the head of the think tank at that time, what are you focusing on? And he said, we are aiming how to hedge the risk of the war is the answer from the Asia Pacific Security Studies. And I personally really, how to say, attract my philosophy. And I think we again approach that kind of the approach to the world to how to hit the risk of the war, because we already experienced 1-2 years of the pandemic, and people had a lot of stress. The economy is a lot of dead, and now the environment is a worst situation right now. So somebody who is kind of like evil or a terrorist or some bad, how do you say, evil, try to attack or to make something profitable for them. We can feel it, but we have to how to say prepare for that kind of worst situation or scenarios. So that's what I need for that. And actually, back to your question, and my answer is that we have to increasing the budget to how to hit the risk, and not attacking the enemy, but we have to protect our own how to say citizens and the profit, and our own property and the soils, our land, homeland. So, and the free world, democratic world. So long answer, but and also my sorry again, but my English skill is not so good. If I'm speaking Japanese, maybe I can say more good and the better opinion. But I hope that Ken, you will catch my wave. I mean, catch my message.
You're speaking, State Minister Nakayama, you're speaking very clearly. We get your message. You're speaking beautifully.
Yes, arigato. Thank you very much.
To ask you, look, in the first defense budget, the Biden administration prioritized new technologies such as hypersonics, which you referred to earlier, missiles and defensive cyber operations, directed energy, low Earth orbit satellites, AI-enabled combat systems, autonomous vehicles, some of which you mentioned Japan is working on, and Japan is drawing on its startup sector in some cases, particularly in the satellite area. But given these next generation technologies, I think there's some fear in the United States that our allies, including Japan, are going to fall behind the US military in these new capabilities. And it's going to be challenging to maintain interoperability if we're increasingly employing very different technologies and operational concepts. Can the JMOD maintain interoperability?
Yeah, thank you very much. We are focusing and we are really interested in the doing and the study and the prepare for the interoperability between our allies, United States, the armed forces, between Japanese self-defense forces. And actually, we are buying lots of fighter jet from the United States, lots of techniques from the United States. And even it's high price or not, but we have to buy those kind of techniques and the fighter jet or whatever we need to protect our lives from the enemies. So, and also the alliance between the US and Japan, and the alliance between the humans who works inside of the militaries and self-defense forces, their capability is not one day you can make it. It's not instant. We doing lots of work every single day. And actually, right now, inside of the Japanese soil, US, Japan, exercising together in somewhere in this country. And actually, next week, I'm going to Hokkaido to watch their exercise, Japan, US together in Hokkaido. So those kind every single day collaboration between the United States and on behalf of the Japanese staff in MOD, I think interoperability is not the machine or machinery or mechanics. It's a human being. So we, the human, and the United States soldiers and the Japanese self-defense forces staffs, they more synchronized together. So, and we know the cost efficiency is a mutual profit. So we have to protect on our companies, private companies, who are creating the arms or the armament. And the United States also have same issue. So they need to protect by the economy point of view too. So we have to more strongly collaborate, and we share the profit. And also we have to focusing on the future, how we are going to manage and marketing. Even the private sectors people can get very good circles together to grow the protection from the enemies and keep the lives together, and also the share of the market from the point of view of the economic private sector's views. So and then we can more invest to the future tech. For example, actually the China and Russia doing very good. They are friends. They are very good friends, I think. But on the other hand, they are creating their own missiles capability, their own submarine capabilities. They are sharing their knowledge together, even with academia, I guess, or R&D center, PhDs. And actually, few of the PhDs in China, they study abroad in the United States, like a special university, MIT, Harvard, Caltech, Stanford. Those very good universities actually educated them, a few of them, I think. So the United States knows what the university taught them. So they are very skillful and they are very genius people. So we have to more focusing on how to protect, and not just protect, but how to hedge the risk. So I think the interoperability is not just the techniques, but first we need a trust between the humans, and it learn from the human being, and we are going to have some needs, and the needs, the target and the purpose is the machine and the mechanics and the techniques collaborating together. And we are going to think about the basically the geopolitics. So the geopolitics point of view, now United States, a very big, huge country, and we are facing each other, but there is a big ocean called the Pacific Ocean. But the 50%, the western part of the Pacific Ocean, which is Honolulu here, the US here, Japan here, Honolulu to Japan, this zone is becoming the Chinese and Russians come in this zone. So the United States, the protection line is going to be backwards a little bit. So I think how to protect those kind of the geopolitically concerned area, we have to use interoperability philosophy together, Japan and US together, and even the Taiwan. They are making a very good machine, and they have a capability to manufacture it. So we maybe our private sector also should order more lots of businesses, meeting together with including Taiwan, not just Japan and the United States. And so I think it will how to make the friendship team of the democratic country will solve the problem. So don't think just as one. We have to think we are not one. We have our friends, and we share the profit. Yes, that is my thought.
Excellent. That's a great answer and very inspiring. I've got one last question because we're actually over time, but your remarks have been so fascinating. We've seen both the Biden administrations and the Abe and Suga governments reaffirm publicly the importance of the American nuclear umbrella for the alliance. That being said, today in the U.S., there's a debate about procuring a nuclear-armed submarine-launched cruise missile. You spoke earlier about the threat posed by China's new JL-3 nuclear missiles. And as of today, the U.S. Navy is skeptical about funding a nuclear-armed submarine-launched cruise missile, but many on Capitol Hill support it as necessary to enhance the American extended deterrent. As without it, there's a possibility that China, Russia, and North Korea could endanger Japan, South Korea, Taiwan with nuclear-armed missiles. But as of now, the Biden administration, at least rhetorically, has adopted the posture that the U.S. shouldn't use nuclear weapons if the U.S. itself is not attacked. Without engaging you in American domestic politics, how do you view this issue in Japan?
Yes, I think it's a very difficult question to answer it. We have to learn from the history. I'm married. I have my wife in my constituency. I live in the same roof, under the roof, and we love each other. But before I get married, I thought justice inside of my house is one. But after I get married, it wasn't. Justice, there is two justices inside of my house, under the roof. One justice, husband justice. The other justice, wife's justice. So I learned from the marriage how to understand my lovely wife's opinion, lovely wife's justice. And I want my wife to understand my justice So I try to not fight against my wife, but on the other hand, I want my wife to understand honest and clearly my opinion. And so this is the balance of the house rule inside of my family. And if you look the Japan or US and China or Russia, I think it's kind of like strategically same. We have our justice. They have their own justice. Just the way of thinking is different. And how to manage inside of the whole world, the big top of the roof, and that we live under the roof together. And we don't want more fight against each other like 70s or 70s years ago, because we attack Pearl Harbor, and Pearl Harbor memories is still remembering for the US citizens, and learn from the history. If you go to the Israel, you learn Holocaust, and Holocaust Museum exists in all over the world. We learn history. And in Japan, we attack the Pearl Harbor, but the end of the war, the US dropped 2 bombs, nuclear bombs in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and we lost lots of lives. And we were born in 1970, so we don't experience that tragedy, even Pearl Harbor, even Hiroshima or Nagasaki. But what we have to do is we learn from the history, and we have to hit the risk of the war, what the United States, the Army think tank says. And this is a very important. So how to use or how to react using the power of the nuclear weapons capability. Before that, we have to think how to manage the counterpart of the another world. Their justice is where and the which and the what their needs. So when we use options of the military capability, before that, we have to do the foreign policy, diplomatic relations is more needed. And otherwise, if now the capability of the nuclear weapons is much more stronger compared to Hiroshima or Nagasaki, if some country shoot the torpedo from their continent towards Honolulu, that missiles, torpedoes, the warheads is compared to Hiroshima, it's 200 times more than Hiroshima. So I've been to Hiroshima before, and I went to the museum before. From that experience and the perspective, if 200 times more strong atomic bombs or torpedoes or missiles, warheads towards Honolulu, I think Honolulu will be erased from the map. So we have to think before using those powers. We have to think how to stop it. So I think we have to discuss about these issues is very important, of course, and I have my opinion about the nuclear umbrella issue, of course, but before that discussion, I want to discuss more peacefully way to provide and protect how we manage the big roof and inside of our house. So that's why I told you a story. We cannot get divorced. Lots of people divorced, but we cannot actually. When you think about the map of the geopolitics of the world and the world economy, or the internet especially, there is no border. So once you affect, maybe in South Africa or the North Pole even, can get effect from somewhere in downtown of LA or the New York, or so we connected already in 21st century. So your problem is my problem. Your profit is my profit. So those kind of the way of thinking will need it. And we, the Japan and the Japanese people, try to how to say, erase all the nuclear the arms from the world, I guess. But there is two types of the way of thinking. The nuclear weapons afforded by the democratic country or the freedom country, nuclear weapons afforded by the communist country or some dictatorship country. You can see it's the same arm, same technology, same risk, but who is going to control these arms is very important. So that's why we are tackling on the issue about the North Korea. I was really surprised, but I was really that was one of the big challenge when Donald Trump visited Kim Jong-un directly and bilaterally straight speak between the North Korea and the United States as a president. And I thought he moved the Kim Jong-un. But unfortunately now, even the US offer to the North Korea, but the North Korea respond is not so good mood. But I think never give up. We, the country, the United States and Japan, the democratic country, have to approach peacefully together towards even the North Korea. We have a missile situation, we have a nuclear weapon situation, and we have the adaptive issues. And so we have a concern together. And so that's why we have to approach together. And finally, I'd like to say, so the how to make a discussion about those kind of the nuclear umbrellas is if we talk about this, I think the counterpart of the another world will going to talk the same way. So we have to show, and we have to, the coronavirus divided everybody in the world, that vaccine and then get together immediately and talk in person, face to face, and no more hiding the secrets. But the threat is mutual threat for the both sides. So we never again the Hiroshima and Nagasaki, another Hiroshima Nagasaki to the world. So I want to stop those kind of tragedy in the future. So that is my opinion. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much on those incredibly articulate words. I just want to thank you, State Minister Nakayama, for gracing us. You're one of the rising stars in security circles in Japan, and all of us at Hudson Institute can see why we're proud to consider you part of the Hudson Institute family, and look forward to welcoming you to Washington when travel begins again. And thank you so much for your insights.
No, thank you very much, Ken.